tipped Armstrong to win the Tour de France. I'll try, before we go to the Tour of Spain, probably give me until the Champion of Zurich to give you perhaps a tip, because David, I think his name is, in my local pub, the Checkers, got a bet on Armstrong to win the Tour de France. Again, what, 16 to 1? 16 to 1. So I've been welcomed in the pub and he bought me a pint. 16 to 1. I'll try and do the same for you on the Tour of Spain, but not until the Champions of Zurich, because I'm not sure of the field yet, and I want to see how the form of these riders coming on. But this man, Zuller, here you watch him go. He is really determined this year. He had his problems last year. He's come back. I've always admired this classy rider. He's reminded me of the old days of Ray Booty, those who are interested in time trialing. See, look at this great big chest, the thin arms, the lanky legs, and that's a bit like the old Ray Booty. Well, here we are on this big climb. This is the moment now as Hulot starts to move off the front for the La Française des Jeux. He's been put up there too by his strong, hard-working team, including Britain's Max Sciandri. It's all beginning to blow apart the seams, and when they get over the top of this final climb of the day, there'll be 30 kilometres down to San Sebastian. The question is, who can pull this together? Who's going to get down the other side? Who's going to win the stage? They certainly are ripping it to pieces after those 15 men went away, and one by one they've been sucked back into the main pack. And this is the man who won it last year. Casagrande starting to go too. All the way up this climb, and it's going to be anybody's race, because when they come out of the big tours, nobody knows exactly what the form is like. Some of them go and ride the special criterium, some of them just go soft tapping and putting in the miles, ready for a big event like this one. But in reality, this race is still anybody's race. I've not seen anything of Mr. Ulrich, and I don't think it's his cup of tea or bottle of Rioja, as the case may be, as Casagrande starts to ride off the front here. Looking back then to see what damage he's been doing. We're getting so many attacks, and Hulot's been on the attack, Zuller's been on the attack, Casagrande's been on the attack, as they've been pulling back the remnants of that 15-man breakaway group to set the whole thing alight on this San Sebastian Classic. Just looking to see the damage that's been done further back, because certainly Laurent started to move well, but he's missed the move now. His team were doing a tremendous amount of work. Well, Ellie just sitting on the wheels. I don't think he's going to do much work yet. There's Casagrande still at the front. There's Laurent. 1, 2, 3, 4 back from the front. Tonkov not far behind into the Mapei. One of good strength of Mapei. Well, Tonkov had to go out to the Tour of France, you may remember, and his father-in-law died. He was just coming to form. He'd had tummy trouble before, and I think again we might see Tonkov riding in the Tour of Spain, because he wasn't able to complete the Tour de France. I'm just looking forward to that race this year. It starts, I said to you earlier on, at Murcia on September the 4th. You can actually fly from Great Britain dead easy down to Murcia, an airport there. So I want to go down and spend the weekend watching the start of the Tour of Spain, because it all happens very close to Murcia to begin. It runs up towards Alicante, Benidorm, and then cuts across to Albacete, and it's not difficult to take in some of the early stages. I think we're going to see one of the best races for a long time. And look at the way these chaps are racing now. That's interesting, because just Hulot, there's Tonkov. There's one or two riders that are just riding that seem to be within themselves, trying to burn people off the back. I think that's Figueras just going through for the Kelma Costa Blanca team. Have a quick look again, 162. In fact, it is Alberto Figueras. The green pants just sitting there, just behind Laurent, wearing number 52. And that's Ellie, just there for Telecom. Follow on behind the Banesto rider. And that, in fact, is Leonardo Piccoli. 26 seconds. Casagrande is doing all the work. He's so determined. He got this race last year. He and Axel Merckx. In fact, Pier Poli, who's in this group, he was third last year, so he's no stranger to this part of the course. Oh, that really has ripped it apart at the seams. Tonkov's now got to go with this little group. It's broken up completely. They've been racing for nearly 200 kilometres. They've done something like 110, 115 miles since we started out. And now they really are rolling. It's a big rolling fast climb. You see right in the distance there, those masts. That's where it goes up to, and it goes up whilst a helicopter shot showed it snaking backwards and forward. It's not one of those sort of gut-busting climbs where it's like going up a wall. It just keeps on going and going. And when you've been riding nearly thick and 120 miles, then it certainly begins to hurt the legs. That's what's happening now. Tonkov off on his own. That's him on your screen. Well, that's interesting. He left it a bit late, I'd have thought, and if only someone like Laurent had been with him too, but he's just riding up here very strongly. And if we get that four-man group together at the top, Casagrande, winner last year, Piepoli, third last year. There's a lot of indecision back in the group. Certainly the Mapei boys won't chase. Look, the chaps with the sort of multicoloured blue and white and red clothing, they won't do anything about this one. And so it's left to Lotto, left to onto Deutsche Bank field to try and do something for Alano, who's not with it at the moment. He's fairly well back. Jalabert's not racing this event, by the way. I don't know if you know, but he had a bit of a crash, and he's out of hospital now and has gone back home again. They suspect that he'll be okay to race in the Tour of Spain. So there's another man we didn't see in the Tour de France to be back for the Tour of Spain. Commesso on the right-hand side, the Italian national champion, riding well for the Saeco team, who've got Laurent Dufaux. In fact, there's Dufaux just behind the... move over it. Up in yellow and black, Dufaux is behind there in the red, and Commesso is doing a good job here, just sitting on the front, rolling along a bit, looking out for Dufaux, but they've got to go somewhere to catch Casagrande, who's doing all the work. Casagrande doing all the work. Now, you see down there on the right-hand side, well, that's the C, not SE, but SEA. They're going to go up this climb, drop down, do a big circuit and come back round again. So do a bit of a zigzag, a bit of a figure eight before they drop back in towards San Sebastian. 44 seconds, is that going to be enough? Casagrande is still on the front. Piepoli from Banesto just behind him. Ellie's not doing anything. There they are. Tremendous driving force of Casagrande. Looking back to what damage he's done. Again, another these riders with an enormous big chest, sucking lots of oxygen. That's what you need. There is Tonkov. It looks like there's 1, 2, 3 coming across to him. So he could be caught back. Somehow, unless that lead group get a good couple of minutes, there's enough talent here to suck them back in again. That's Piepoli. Looks like he's blown. Surely he's gone. I think Casagrande's work at the front is just destroying the chasers. And there he is. And he's just got Ellie for company. Oh, and he's gone. Oh, dear me. Is there not a bike rider here who doesn't know that feeling when suddenly the gap opens up and you look at the wheel in front, you concentrate on the back tyre and suddenly it's gone, and that's it. Well, as Casagrande goes to the top, can I quickly also answer a query I had here from Mr. Collis in Epsom in Surrey, who wrote to me twice. He said, first try 23rd of July, second try 2nd of August. Sorry if things don't come through as we see Tonkov going away again on the right-hand side. He asked me a question. He said, who decided that the chain set should be on the right-hand side of the bicycle and the gear mechs and everything on the right-hand side as you look down? In fact, left-hand side, you look at it now. Why should it be that side rather than the other side? Well, I don't know the actual answer, but I think I know it. As now we see, in fact, that's not Tonkov, it's another one of the Mapei riders starting to go. Because, as you know, in Great Britain, we drive on the left-hand side of the road and the Continentals drive on the right-hand side of the road. So why should we have the chain sets on this particular side? And I think the answer is, before we had derailleur gears, before we had multi-gears, they used to have single fixed sprockets at the back. And if you look at the majority of threads, they're right-hand threads, and when you're pedalling on a single sprocket, a fixed sprocket, on a right-hand thread, it locks the sprocket up. So, for instance, here Casagrande is pedalling, and all the motion's going into his back gears. He's got 9 sprockets at the back there, by the way. And as he's riding on them, the actual drive will force his bike forward, but also it's riding the right-hand thread up against the hub. So, in other words, it drives it in. I think that's the reason we have it on the right-hand side. So Mavic now come back up to Ellie because Casagrande is down the road there. Ellie might have enough power left in his legs when he get over the top of this climb to get back to Casagrande, but I think Casagrande needs more people with him. I don't think he can surely hang on, go down all the other way, because there is Pierpoli blown out the back. And if I look at the result of last year, what happened then, Casagrande towed Axel Merckx and Pierpoli for the last 30 kilometres to win the race. And so he probably could still do it. And he went all the way through towards the finish. He's now trying to do exactly the same thing again when he covered the 232 kilometres in 4 hours, 40 minutes, 45 seconds last year with Merckx and Pierpoli all same time in his wheel. But he's now got rid of them. And looking back here, let's see if any more people would like to get up to him. These are dribs and drabs. I think that's Ulo moving forward. And I think that's still Frankie down there. There's a lot of top talent. I think Casagrande's got a bigger gap than, and that could be Boogerd going through. Sorry about this when I say could be, because we're not getting information over headphones and we're just picking up the riders going through, watching their style and looking at who should be there and who should be. There's a massive crowd. This is very big. We could, before we nip down the booking, put a few bombers to Casagrande. There's enough talent here to pull that thing back, and we could be into, I won't say a bunch sprint finish, but I've got a suspicion that gap is not enough yet. Anyway, going back to Mr. Collis and his facts and his emails, we're getting towards the top 1 kilometre to go. I do think then that probably when he's saying why do we have the chain set on the right-hand side, it has to do with driving the back sprockets, and Daysman had single fixed gears to drive it into the hub, because that's the way we had right-hand threads on so many of our threads. There are very few threads that are left-hand threaded, by the way. We get left-hand threads on pedals, and we get left-hand threads on the bottom bracket cups, because the way in which when you're pedalling, you could have the pedal unwind itself. So we do have left-hand threads on the left-hand pedals, or the right-hand pedal. We've got left-hand thread on one of the pedals, we've got left-hand thread on the bottom bracket as well. Most threads are right-hand threads, and I think that's the reason that we drive on the right-hand side here. It has nothing to do with riding on the right-hand side of the road, or whichever side of the road it might be. I think it's to do with engineers many years ago wanting to make sure as you're riding with your single chain, it drove the sprocket up against the hub and didn't undo it. And of course, in track racing, when you had single fixed gears, you had a right-hand thread for the main sprocket, but you had a left-hand thread for the lock ring, so it could then lock up against it, and when you kick back on a single fixed gear, it wouldn't fly off the hub. So you also had left-hand and right-hand thread. Am I complicating life? Okay, at least I think I've got the answer, Mr. Collis. I told you it's a nice long steady drag going up toward the top of the climb without any real back-breaking, gut-busting, nasty little hairpins on it. So he's riding well, but it does mean the group behind is quite capable of containing itself. And there we've gone over the top now. Let's see what that gap's going to be. And I have a suspicion that the back group behind might well come together. As Ellie starts to motor up there, he's going quick enough to catch him, surely. It's 30 kilometres to go off the top here. That's just under 20 miles. Pretty well all downhill. A little bit of a hiccup towards the end, but generally speaking, it's a pretty good run down towards the finish. And there he goes, and that's only, what, 18 seconds, or 25, 26 on the screen now. There's Pierpoli that was originally in that breakaway group at the front. Looks like he's been sucked in and pulled out. I think that's Ulo going with him now for La Française des Jeux. Well, Pierpoli's taking a bit of a tow. Yep, there he is. Oh, is that 1 minute going to be enough? Pierpoli over the top for Banesto. La Française is up, Ulo, 1 minute. Look at this pack. No. They're surely. The chase is really on here. That's going to come back together. There's a lot of top brass in there, and I think some of them are going to drive this one very hard indeed. Wow. That is some bunch. I didn't spot Lance Armstrong in that, by the way. He was together at the bottom of the climb with the rest of his lads, but I think somehow anybody who's in that leading group is going to have their work cut out. Well, two things can happen now. One is that leading group will persist and stay away. Alternatively, they will catch the leaders and then sit up and just wonder who's going to do the work. And this little back group might try and get on, and this could well be Armstrong's group. No, couldn't spot him there either, and that's been coming up towards 2 minutes. In fact, this I think is him. Yeah, it looks like Lance. Well, after what he's been through since the Tour de France, flying backwards and forwards across the Atlantic and turning up for special races and celebrations, I think to stay within 2 minutes of the leader isn't that bad. And here comes a big pack too. They are absolutely motoring. I've never seen it quite so compact as this before, or could be compact. I think that's it. Anybody who's off the back of that little group now, unless you're a demon descender, can say bye-bye to that one. The funny about being sucked in with the team cars, you can get back. So we've now got an interesting situation where this man Casagrande is trying to do it all on his own, and behind him then little chase groups begin to form. Sorry about the pictures again, we have these little problems. So the chase is now on with the big group coming down. There's enough riders here, I think, if they're determined to try and pull back our breakaway rider, Casagrande. That slender lead at the top of the hill, I don't think it's enough, but stay with us to see if he manages to survive to the finish. Less than 30 k's to go.
Step into the future.
Well, the chase is on. They've got some, less than 20 kilometres to go towards the finish of this San Sebastian event. And the one lone man, Casagrande, is still out there trying to hang on for grim death as the rest of the field are beginning to move after him. And somehow I think that it could be a lonely task as far as he's concerned, because some big hitters in the chase group. Here is on your screen, Casagrande, winner last year of this race when he went away with the other two breakaway companions, Merckx and Pierpoli, and managed to get through to take the race at the end of it all by the scruff of the neck. He did it all on his own last time over the top of the climb. He had a slender lead. In fact, I'll try and check back for you to see what his time gap was at the top of the climb over the top of the Escabel last year. And it says that I'm just checking it out now. He went away from 40 riders, so it's about the same then, and only 18-second gap. That's interesting. He had only an 18-second gap with Merckx and Pierpoli over the top of the Escabel last year, with some 30 k's to go, and now he's gone over with a thick end about half minute and 40 seconds. So he's got more in hand than he had last year, and he towed Merckx and he towed Pierpoli in toward the finish last year. So there may be a chance then. You can see this is the route they've taken. They're over the top of that little climb at the end where it has that one. Here we go. Didn't go quite that fast. And there we are, 25 kilometres to go. And this is common, well-known territory then for Casagrande. This is what he did last year, but he did it with Merckx and he did it with Pierpoli. He towed them last year in toward the finish, and now he's got a bigger group behind him. Well, as big a group, there were 40 riders chased him down last year. And now let's see if they can get their act together this time on the way down. This man certainly won't do anything to chase him down, because that's one of his teammates, and that was Donati, number 3, and here he is for Vinny Caldirola, going very hard at the front. Also in the Vinny Caldirola team, we've got an Australian rider, Matthew White, racing today. We might pick him up. You spot him back there. He's got number 7 on his back. So this is familiar territory for the man himself out there at the front and running on in towards the finish. That's not into San Sebastian. That's this town we're going into at Hondarriba. It runs through a long Hondarriba, then curls back round through Iron and then back in towards the finish. That's the unpronounceable town we're going to before we get to Hondarriba. And you can see once it gets down there, pretty flat. There's the little climbs after that, and just the undulations which you get off the bay. I'm waiting to pick up the sight of those riders. I've just been looking back to 1996 when Udo Boltz came in to win the race. We had some 6 riders, including Ellie, who's in this group now. They all came in together to sprint it out the finish. So that was when we had 6 men finish together, with the breakaway group way back behind them. The next group came in. Oh, in fact, there was some more riders, only 1 second back. We had a big wad of riders that year. In fact, Max Sciandri was 16th that year in 1996, and they all came in within 1 second of the winner. So Udo Boltz brought a big group in that year, 1996, and it could be the same thing that happened this year. Casagrande's just got to keep ploughing along as hard as he can do. Back in 1995, when Armstrong won it, he was just ahead by 2 seconds Della Santa, who we already spotted back there, and Museo from the Mapei team back into third spot, and Jalabert was back into fourth, and Bugno into fifth spot, where Pier Poli again has been very active in this race so far, was sixth there, or Max Sciandri being in the pack in seventh spot. So it could be a rerun of many of the things we had in the past, with just the breakaway groups getting away, hanging on for grim death, the big pack coming in. But I don't know, I think perhaps if this lot can settle their differences, we might find that Casagrande will get himself absorbed by this chase group. We'll have to wait and see. Certainly the man at the back's going to do nothing. It's down to no more than a dozen riders. We went over the top with a bigger pack than this, so I think they've split on the descent. So, sorry, Mr. Scartin, he's not here. Not his territory today. Not familiar territory, though, for Casagrande. Makes it look so easy. Imagine he, on his own, has got to go one notch faster, or at least equally as quick as the rest behind him. Wearing number one on his bike again because of the fact he won this race last year. And he's doing it in similar style, but he had company last year when he was towing along Merckx and Pier Poli. I think he's just calling up the team car to get a quick time check. Well, the Spanish would like a Spanish victor, but they certainly also would be pleased to see somebody who's prepared to have a go on this race. And Casagrande it is that has the edge, and the chase is on. We'll have to wait till our cameras get back up again and get some information about who's doing the work, because when you get a big group like that very often, it's a bit too difficult to organise the chase. Well, I suppose we're going to Hoverparia. Always a bit sort of sprawling when you look out from the helicopters like this, but you can see the time to time the cameras go around and pick up the lovely bay where all the boats are moored, and as you'd expect too, that the fish food here is absolutely marvellous. There's actually some 60 kilometres of coastline on what they call the Gibsocchia. It's right from here, from Honda-Borer to Satoran, and some lovely sandy beaches. It's not quite here, this particular part, because this is in the estuary area, but there's some lovely little villages too inland. There we are. That gorgeous. Look at the nice beaches. And some of you fairly busy with people on holiday too, but a bit later in the year, if you come down maybe in September, October, it's still not too bad at all. There we are. I say 60 kilometres of coastline from Gibsocchia, from Honda-Borer to Satoran. Back then with the race. Oh, by the way, if you do get a chance for you to come down here, I don't know what they call it, but there is a sport, I'll use the word sport, which I saw for the first time in the San Sebastian World Championships a couple of years ago, where great big men lift lumps of lead, and they're about half the size of a tea box, and they grab this lump of lead, and they get onto their knees, they pull up onto their thighs, and then they throw it up on their shoulder, and they take this lump of lead, I say like half the size of a tea box, across the shoulders and down the other side, and then bang it down on the floor. And they work through enormous lumps of lead, so much so that I watched them after this chap was doing this great escapade in picking up this big lump of lead in this nightclub, that it took 4 people to lift it and put it on a trolley after he finished with it. Unbelievable. Not something you should try unless you want to get yourself a horrible hernia. Back with our chase group. In fact, Scartin's there.
Lovers, they may cause you tears. Go ahead, really.
Well, Casagrande really has taken this race by the scruff of the neck, and he's in fact been increasing his lead since he came over the top of that climb, and he's now 1 minute and 10 seconds ahead. It was only about 40 seconds over the top of the last big climb of the day, but he seems to have pressed on with his attempt to win this race today, the San Sebastian Classic. We're looking back then at the chase group, which contains some very, very big riders indeed. This is by the second chase group. There's one wedge between this big mass now and Casagrande, and that includes some very big hitters indeed. So I just wonder if they can close that gap down. That's our biggest group. This is not the one which is at 1 minute 15. We'll perhaps go up with our cameras to see them in just a second. Certainly the Mapei team riding very hard indeed here. Going into the World Cup today, Frank Vandenbroek from Koppel, who was riding in this race but very short of race miles, was the overall leader, 199 points. Michael Boogerd from Holland, riding for the Rabobank team, was lying second, 170 points. Andrei Tchmil, who's in that chase group, by the way, for the Lotto team, 168 points. Peter van Petegem for TVM was in fourth spot, 135 points. Sprook not rides 124. Marcus Berg, Rabobank, 101. Andrew Taffy not rides 100 points. So the World Cup could receive a bit of a shake-up in some respects, but this man Casagrande not having scored any points so far. Frank Vandenbroek up to 199 points. Boogerd could well move ahead. He's some 29 points adrift, and if Boogerd manages to finish, say, into second or third spot, then he might move up. But this man Tonkov, no threat on the overall classification for the World Cup, riding for the Mapei team with a good squad. There we are. This is on Tchmil. This is the man who could do well on the World Cup as well. 168 points he's got since he opened up by winning the Milan San Remo way back there in March, and since then he was 7th in the Tour of Flanders. He was 8th in the Paris-Roubaix, 17th Liège-Bastogne-Liège, 19th in the Amstel Gold, and so Andrei Tchmil could benefit if he can just get himself up into second or third. That's why the Lotto team are really riding hard in the front. They're looking to try and get Mr. Tchmil in with a good shout for taking over the lead in the World Cup. Plenty of Lotto riders here to support him, and that, I think, could make life a bit difficult for Casagrande, and there he is on his own. They may, of course, be quite happy just to snatch our chase group, because the chase group, which we haven't just seen for a moment or two, includes Escartin and Zuller, Atienza, Garcia Casas, and they're about 110 back from this man. So it looks like he might still be able to do what he did last year. That's hang on and stay away from everybody else. He really is ploughing along here. And our cameraman getting pictures for you of Casagrande in full flight. Once again, just to show we'll have come all over there and down a bit, and that's it. You see, 16 kilometres to go. This little bit towards the end, those little conks they've got there, they're not too bad. They're quite rideable at speed. They're not going to sort of bring him to a grinding halt. And there's no wind today, or no wind to be worried about, just a quite a nice sort of mellow day with the temperatures up there in the mid-20s. Not too much sun to cause them to sweat, but nevertheless, that chase group determined, I think, to pull him back. But he's looking very strong indeed, Casagrande. Had quite a quiet year so far this year, looking back at what's happened to him so far this season. He's not had, well, he had 4th in the Giro Siracusa in the 28th of February, 5th in Tirreno Adriatico, then 18th on a stage in the Tour of Italy, and then went on. Sorry, this is Francesco. I got the wrong Casagrande. Start again from the top. Yes, won a stage in the Tour of Switzerland, didn't he? And also the overall Tour of Switzerland, he got one there, and the Trofeo Matteo. So he's into form now, and I think some of this chase group are not going to do much to... that's Ellie being sucked back in again. And I've got a suspicion that they're about to suck up the group containing... No, they don't. No, they haven't. Still wedged in between. We're not caught up with the group containing Zuller at the moment. Well, coming up towards his birthday. He was born the 14th of September 1970. Gosh, he's got some power, hasn't he? Well, he comes from the same region. I mentioned earlier on that we're in the Basque region, where celebrating his 85th birthday, José Bastegi from the BH team, and during the Tour de France, you may remember we mentioned that it was Bartali's 85th birthday too. Well, that man we've just been looking at, Francesco Casagrande, he comes from the same Tuscany area as Gino Bartali, and I wonder if Gino's watching his local lad on a screen back at home. 43 seconds back then. Well, there's still a chance they could catch him. Depends how determined they are to work. And certainly the Lotto team are going to go some, because they've got that interest in Andrei Tchmil. I haven't seen Boogerd in this group right now, nor Vandenbroek, so it's a chance then for them to start motoring for the World Cup. There's Tchmil, lying third in the World Cup, 168 points. He's 31 points behind Frank Vandenbroek from Cofidis. And doing a quick check back there, couldn't see Vandenbroek either, so that'll give Lotto every encouragement to do what they can to pull this man back. Well, he's been around some years now. Like many of the riders from Italy, started off doing a great ride in the Amateur Tour of Italy, the Amateur Giro, the Baby Giro they call it. He won it in 1991, so it's some 8 years ago. So a good all-rounder, and now showing that skill and experience, and of course knowing these roads from having got that that victory in the San Sebastian Classic last year. Makes it look easy, doesn't it? 50 seconds a gap. Well, it's gone back by 3 seconds, then 51. This GPS, by the way, that's the global satellite positioning thing, and it doesn't always, I understand, take into account some of the curves in the road. It does it in a straight line, so in reality, by going round the curves, it might be a little bit longer, but please don't blame me if I got it wrong. I was just told that by somebody. But this is our chase group, including Andrei Tchmil. Well, getting in toward the back end now of the race for Casagrande. Big crowded turnout here. They saw him win this race last year when he towed Axel Merckx and Pierpoli in toward the finish. Now he's all on his own, but that group's still less than a minute behind him, and with about 12-13 kilometres to go toward the finish. It is catchable, but they've got to work hard. This man is so determined now to get this success today. Didn't get to ride the Tour de France when his team were not allowed in. They had a problem with the hemocrit level for one of their riders, something like about just over 2 weeks before the start of the Tour de France, and their team was taken off the list, and now I think they've got a few scores to settle here. The Mapei team with Tonkov just behind are really starting to go. Some Dufaux just there in the red as well, not far back. The Swiss rider in the red for Saeco. There's some good talent here. Depends who's prepared to have a go. Mapei have taken over. We saw the Lotto team riding hard for Tchmil. Well, Mapei really giving it some stick. They've got Taffy is the best placed rider from the Mapei team, not riding today in the overall World Cup. He's 7th on the World Cup series, and Johan Museo way back into 12 spots on the World Cup series. So in reality they must be riding for just to get the victory, because they're not going to do as well as Mr. Tchmil will do to get the lead in the World Cup. But a long way to go still. We've got the Hamburg race next weekend, then we've got the Championship of Zurich, then we've got the Paris Tour, and then we've got the big one to finish off, the Tour of Lombardy. And still Casagrande, 54 seconds. He's in fact going a little bit further away. Well, Dufaux on his own as far as Saeco's concerned. Unless he's determined to try and win this on his own, pull that one back. Can't see that he's got any other reason to drive this one along a bit. He's gone a bit too quick. I understand Dufaux's got his contract for Saeco again re-signed for 1 if not 2 years, so at least since he's come back with suspension he's shown great courage and great tenacity, and now he's got himself a contract to go. But this man Casagrande really rolling along here. Just for local interest, way back in 1993 rode the Tour of Britain. Must have been the Kellogg's Pro Tour in those days when he finished 14th overall. So Casagrande determined to get it twice on the trot. The only other riders that won this race twice on the trot was Lajaretta, won it in 1981 and 1982. 10 Ks to go. It's still possible then with just under a minute separating himself from the group behind, which does not include Lance Armstrong, who's just been tail off on the climb of the last big mountain of the day. So that big climb there of the Escabel certainly once again has proved the break point for so many riders. It's coming down, and this man Dufaux's doing all the work. It really has come down all of a sudden. Now, are they going to persist with it as well? As Bettini's going with it, they've got 10k. Oh, it's coming down. There's got to be surely less than that 50 seconds they gave us before. There's Bettini just behind. I think he's not going to do too much, though, for the Mapei squad. Dufaux and Bettini riding along here, and still Casagrande on his own. Well, Dufaux's been doing a lot of work. He's looking around for the rest to come on and take part in this, but they don't seem to be too bothered about it. I don't quite know why they're not getting stuck in. In fact, no, it's Petito, my mistake. 122 is Petito. He's looking back for Dufaux's in the main pack. And still, that gives a chance then 9 kilometres to go for Casagrande to stay out there. His team car coming up and giving him some encouragement. They can't give any drinks here because they've gone through the last 20 kilometres. They're only giving encouragement to him. So it's Petito from Saeco, not Dufaux. Dufaux is the team leader. He's back in that group. So again, it's got to be these lads from the Lotto team to drive this one forward. And who are just behind? Doesn't seem to be doing too much work at the moment. So the spirited attempt then for Petito to drive it forward on behalf of Dufaux has come to nothing. This will play right in the hands of Casagrande because the chase is all very fragmented. There's no sort of complete and steady chase going on. Look, you see how they're looking back and say, no, it's your turn, no, it's my turn. And so, in reality, now what's going on the far side there? Well, they are independently going, although this is Fincato having a go. And this is not the way to build up a positive chase by any means. Boogerd's in this break, that group behind, by the way. I mentioned that Tchmil is in there. With Boogerd also in there, there must be perhaps team tactics going to take place because Boogerd with Rabobank, I haven't seen any other rider from the Rabobank team doing much work with them. So perhaps the Lotto team are saying, we're not going to tow Mr. Boogerd up because there are 2 points separating Boogerd and Tchmil on the World Cup. So as Casagrande isn't in with a shout in the World Cup overall, perhaps what's going on here is who's going to be second rather than who's going to be first. Look. See, Boogerd won't come through in the orange and the white. I don't understand this. If they got stuck in, they could probably go in for first place, but I don't think anyone wants to tow up the opponents. So many riders will just come through, then sit there, just ease back and won't do anything else. Just waiting for someone else to come through. That's Salvatore from Faulty now. He's still going strong, isn't he? Casagrande is taking advantage of the fact there's indecision behind him, and it's exactly what happened last year. They came over the top of the climb. They could almost see them on the descent when he and Merckx and Pierpoli went away, and he just hung on for grim death going in toward the finish, and he survived that one. He might well do it again today. Well, he gets 100 points if he gets into first place, 70 points back for second, and 50 for third. And so Boogerd and Tchmil will be fighting it out because I haven't seen Van den Broek in that chase group. So then Tchmil's lads have gone back on the front again. Whether they like it or not, they're going to have to tow the Rabobank rider with them. So Tchmil in there, one of the oldest riders in the race. Very crafty and plenty of talent too. Actually, 1, 2, 3, maybe... yeah, at least 3 of the Lotto team riders here riding on their new GT bicycles, which were produced just in time for the Tour de France. And this is the man then still out there, Casagrande. Hasn't relented, hasn't missed a beat. We're all the way through. Well, it takes a lot of courage to do what he did at the top of that climb. In fact, going up the climb to go away, catch our breakaway group. Some 15 men were originally clear. Bit by bit, the lead came down until in the end on that climb up towards the top with 30 k's to go. Casagrande forced his way through and off he went. Running back in towards San Sebastian. The run in, by the way, the last kilometre is right alongside the beach, and there's a bit of a sort of left-hand kink before it comes in, but that's just inside the 1 kilometre to go. And there they are. Well, they're motoring, but not enough at the moment. at the speed. And he's on his own. It's not the most delectable part of the countryside, is it? It's often what you get. The docks and the high-rise flats and things aren't all that pretty, but nevertheless, when he gets down towards the beach at San Sebastian along there, that's a lot better. It's quite nice, in fact. And a big crowd waiting to welcome him in. Can he do it again? 1.72 meters, weighs 63 kilograms. And now look at the power of the Lotto rise on the front. Determined they are, because, say, Tchmil, 168 points in the World Cup, 170 points at Boogerd. Frank van den Broek's been shelled out the back. So we could see quite a change then coming up in the World Cup, because Tchmil could take the lead, as he did when he won the Milan San Remo. If this lot can just close that gap down, or get Tchmil into second spot and Boogerd way up the pace. I'm sure this is going to be of great news to people in Belgium, because although it looks like Casagrande might get the stage, the win today, here he is still out there on his own these final 5 kilometres. The way that the Lotto team are coming at him, it could be that Tchmil might take over the lead in the World Cup, because he's got to finish ahead of Boogerd. We'll watch out for that if they don't catch this man in that sprint, just to see if Boogerd manages to get ahead of Tchmil. But it looks now inside his final 5 kilometres. This fellow here on your screen, Casagrande, could be riding in to yet his second victory in the San Sebastian Classic. Well, he showed he's coming back into form in the Tour of Switzerland. We showed you that on Eurosport when he won a stage and went on to win it overall as well. And back in the main pack, so many people here tried to pull him back, didn't quite make it. And they're just now allowing the Solano, who must be very disappointed again that he's not up there with a shout to get it today. And the Spanish public must be asking themselves, where's this man going to? And the answer, I suppose, is anywhere in the Tour of Spain as Boogerd starts to move through. Now, this fellow here, Boogerd, the orange and white, has got to try and track down. If we go past that, looks like Max Sciandri on the right-hand side. He's got to try and track down Andrei Tchmil. And Tchmil is up with his little gang in front here, there with the black shorts and the red. This is the Lotto lot, with the Lotto boys here with 4Ks to go. They are going to play out their own game, because it looks like we're going to see this man roll in to get the victory, but behind it's who's going to take the lead in the World Cup. So we're seeing 2 races within one here. One, Casagrande, who took off on that climb up towards the top of the last big mountain of the day, and over the top he went, over the Jeskibel, and he's then gone on his own for something like that 40 kilometres. The gap's still 52 seconds as one by one the Lotto boys look beginning to drop back there. That one chap who's just been doing all the work for his teammate Tchmil just seems to have blown a gasket and gone. 51 seconds, certainly inside these final 4 kilometres. They're not going to catch him, that's for sure. Back then with Tonkov. Well, 3 kilometres to go. You see how flat it is here. There's nothing to disturb the action at all. And it looks like Max Sciandri's beginning immensely to move forward. Tonkov's still riding hard in the front. Can't quite comprehend why he's doing that, because then the Mapei boys are jumping all over the place now. I think everyone for himself a second spot. Now this is where the Lotto people have got to be very careful indeed, because they want to make sure that Tchmil finishes ahead of Boogerd. But if Boogerd uses one of the stepping stones of these riders going down the road, all the work they've done could be to no avail. Boogerd riding in the orange and white colours for the Rabobank team. Lotto 131 is Tchmil's number, if you want to spot him come through. But back in with our leader. Well, he's been fairly active all the way through, has the young Bettini. Normally rides for Bartoli, but Bartoli's still suffering with that smashed knee that he had in the Tour of Germany. We haven't seen anything of Ulrich, by the way, and his team managers, by the way, said very clearly that Ulrich has to ride the Tour of Spain, which we're going to give you live on Eurosport. And Ulrich is sort of puffing and panting and humming and ahhing about it, but he's got to do something this year. And I'm thinking if he doesn't ride the Tour of Spain and do a decent ride, then he's going to have to really look at his contract, because so far he's done not very much this year, and so he's got to really get stuck in. I'm not lecturing the poor fellow, but somehow I think the Tour of Spain is going to be a fascinating one for It depends also, Pantani's supposed to be down to ride, how his form is after not riding very much since the Tour of Italy. So we've got all that yet to come. But no doubt about it, in Spain today, in fact, the Basque Region, San Sebastian, this looks like being a cracking win yet again. The second time for Casagrande. Won it last year when he towed Merckx and Pipil into finish. Now he's doing all of this. This is the left-hander, got to about 1 kilometre to go. Alongside the beach. There in the distance, that's it, 1k to go. Lovely straight run in. Very similar finish to that which we had in the World Championships when Brochard won that one for France. Brochard riding for Festina. Watches in the race today, not in contention, not in that chase group at all. So the big thing is, out of that chase group, what's going to happen with the battle between Andrei Tchmil of Lotto and Boogerd from Rabobank. Certainly are motoring along now. Well, he's got it, hasn't he? Stitched up nicely, 500 metres. No doubt that he's going to get this one. That's it. That's his. Just down the road, say from where we had the World Championship finish. A bit nearer to the seafront. We were tucked a bit round the road, a bit further up to the left-hand side, but certainly coming in, there's no doubt about it, for the second year in succession he's going to get this one, but we're going to watch out to see what happens in the chase group behind it. Casagrande doing tremendous riding. He took off just the right time on that final climb of the day. He rode so well. What a measured success then. He went over the Alto de Esquivel in the lead. He maintained that lead through toward the finish. He never had much more than about, 40 seconds at the top of the climb, and he never hovered much more than between 40 and 50 seconds all the way down in toward the finish, but now he's got the stay. He's got the success of the San Sebastian Classic, but who's going to get the placings behind, in particular, who's going to take over the World Cup for lead? Watch out then for the Lotto team begin to move through here, and look out for the orange and white. On the right-hand side, you can see lurk in the background is Boogerd, but they've sent the men down the road to get some of the maximum points of the Lotto team, and they whiz through here. Orange on right, the right-hand side, Boogerd starting to go for this one. It could make life difficult for Tchmil on the left-hand side. Tchmil then coming up on the left, Boogerd on the right, and they go to the line. I think Tchmil just finished ahead of Boogerd, but I need a photo finish to see that one. As they came through at the finish, I was more concerned not about the individual Lotto man who came up through on his own, but what happened further back on the right-hand side. It looked like Boogerd may have just been snitched to the line by Tchmil, so Tchmil might have the World Cup lead, but Casagrande is the winner today. Well, there's still groups of riders to come in after that finish when Casagrande romped in to get this victory, but I'm going to wait and see what happened in that run-off for the second place. Not to see who was second, but to see what happened between Tchmil and Boogerd, because going into the World Cup round today, Boogerd 170 points, Andrei Tchmil 168. I think they were sprinting probably around about 5th and 6th spot. It may be 4th and 5th, but quite a stack of points there available, and we'll have to just wait for that one to come up on our slow motion and confirmation to come up over our headphones. But certainly the success today going to Casagrande, winning the San Sebastian for the second year in succession. And we wait now with bated breath to see who's taken the lead in the World Cup. So hang out there, don't leave us. Stay with us on Eurosport.
I'm an engineer. By definition, that means I'm fat.
Well, the crowd waiting with anxious bated breath for the result in connection with the World Cup overall, but no doubt about it, Casagrande winning today, and this lovely part of the world, then these lovely beaches here, San Sebastian, 3 beaches, La Concha, Ondaretta and La Zariola, and the beach is empty to see the finish today as coming in to the line. We're just looking back at the later riders coming in over 3 minutes down. I think Armstrong came in with that little group, so this is our main chase group. Imagine over 3 minutes down. When they went over the top of that climb, I think about 1.5 to 2 minutes back to them, so just give you some idea of the gap that was opened up by Francesco Casagrande as he rode in towards the finish today. Not too much sunshine about this part of the world, but a nice mellow day for the bike riders, and I suppose that many of them now back in action in the World Cup, looking forward to next week's race at Hamburg. And somehow I think Mr. Ulrich has got to get the proverbial out and do a good ride next week, otherwise he'll be asking questions. Looking back again at the slow motion of Casagrande getting his second successive victory in the San Sebastian Classic, 230 kilometres in all, and the time you can see on your screen coming up just 5.25 hours of racing. quick look back at the records from last year. You might ask me, well, what was his time last year? Over a somewhat similar quarter. I think about 2 kilometres longer last year. And he ran out a bit last year. And somewhere here, I have the time for you, if I can find it. No. No, this is what I want. That's second spot. Don't worry about that. Well, yes. I would say that Tchmil has now got the World Cup lead, because there's his teammate going across. That's second. Watch again. That's third, Bettini. That's fourth, Tchmil. Commesso is into fifth spot. Keep rolling, keep rolling, keep rolling, because Boogerd wasn't there. So that means Tchmil now has got fourth spot. Fifth goes to Commesso, and looks like sixth comes on this side. Yep. And there in seventh spot is Boogerd, and looks like Max Sciandri into eighth on the far side. So I would say from that we have now got Tchmil back in the leader's jersey on the World Cup, having got that position, fourth spot overall. In fact, Casagrande's time, I've now found it for you, 4 hours, 43 minutes and 45 seconds last year for 232 kilometres. So a somewhat slower race this year, but still the result was the same as far as he was concerned as we look back down there. Verbrugghe, Figueras, it was not to Bettini, my mistake. Tchmil